Thank you. I think I'm quite excited to be part of this group. I think quite a lot of people have joined. Thank you all. Thank you to each one of you for joining and showing interest in this community. I will talk about, briefly about my experience. My seeding thought about contributing to community has started way back in 2000 when I met Richard Stallman for the first time. If you are not aware who Richard Stallman is, he is the founder of Free Software Foundation. Where he is known to have built, Free Software Foundation has started off with his vision and his conviction and commitment, saying that open source is the way to go forward. Initially, it didn't pick up as much momentum way back in the 60s and 70s, but if you see the kind of change that has brought in, Microsoft, which was so much proprietary for a very long time. If you see 10 years back, right, Microsoft says Microsoft loves Linux, right? The whole transition in terms of the mindset change in the industry has happened because open source is here to stay. People started understanding what are the benefits of open source, and companies are embracing that for a reason. So my talk today, my experience sharing is about what is it as an individual, okay? How does it help you being part of such communities, and how do you help larger in terms of giving back to community in return, right? How does it help you? So my experience has been 10 plus years. Either I was an author writing for open source, it was called Linux for you earlier, it was a magazine, or talking in various conferences on open source and web technologies. And for the last, since 2015, we started a group called JavaScript Meetup. We are approximately 9,000 to 10,000 members across 13 countries. All this was possible because of the investment that I could make, apart from my personal life and professional life. I was able to spend some time in participating communities like the one that we are participating right now. I'll share some of the learnings. I will also be open for any questions. I think even after my session is over, I'll be here. If you have any questions to post in chat, feel free. I'd be more than happy to help you all. So building community profile, a profile is nothing but just like, you have on Facebook, you have on Instagram, you have a profile, right? That is your personal profile. Then you have LinkedIn, which is your professional, mostly the identity that you create. The third identity is about, what is in between, right? I will share what it means. We play multiple roles as a person. If you probably look at some of the people's personal profile on, say, Facebook and Instagram, you will find somebody in a restaurant and enjoying the food, taking pictures, somebody a biker, somebody a traveler who likes to go around, a movie buff, a writer, photographer. All these casual hobbies and everything is the personal part. That is the circle that we see here. Then coming to a work life, probably you're a student, maybe a manager, programmer, entrepreneur, anything. That all, whatever we do for our living, that is a work part. Then there is the green part, which is the focus of this current talk, is about, you could be a volunteer in an NGO, or it could be a tech meetup or open source contributor. If you take FLOSS, right, free, libre, open source software, there are many of the communities that are available there, which people can contribute and then make it. But in general, as Mr. Valluri and others was mentioning, there are some reasons, for various reasons, we do not see as much contribution, though we are a heavy consumer and we are very civilized country, but still in terms of our contribution, doing something back to community, significantly lesser. Today, I'm going to touch upon certain points, and if you are stuck with any of the mental blocks on how to overcome and how to do about that. Okay. So we have two identities. Everyone has most probably a personal identity and a work identity. We're going to talk about how do you build your third identity, which is the community. It could be anything. It could be against your hobbies. It could be against your, software development. It could be professional, anything you can be part of. Now, what is the importance? What is the importance, and why do we need this third identity? Number one is the demand is growing. Okay, please understand that it is not just about community and free open source and doing something for no cost or something. There is a huge demand. If you take in the last 5 to 10 years, the cloud world, when it came in, Amazon AWS wants evangelists who want to talk about their products. It's no more about a sales talk. It's more about having a community mindset, and then how people can come forward and develop some that, right? So if you take Azure wants to grab as much of mindshare. That's where you see a lot of free events happening where they want to promote and embrace people to come in. So in general, there is a huge demand where community driven, where people want evangelists, people want somebody advocates about their products and all the stuff, right? Even a simple note taking tool like Evernote, or to-do list management like any.do, they also have evangelists and they have people who promote it. They are just people who are passionate, they do it. So there is a huge demand growing for some volunteers to come into picture, who are not directly associated with the company, but they do a lot of work for the company, right? So there is a huge demand for that. Second thing is its choice and satisfaction. Just like our hobby is not something our parents imposed on us. It's not something we are forced to do at work, but hobby is something we just love to do, right? It is the passion, which is the interest, the keen interest, gaining mastery is what really we thrive towards. And when we spend a lot of time on our hobby, we recharge ourselves, we never drain ourselves. So participating in something like community is as good a feeling as what you would spend in a hobby or something. And the best part of it, you can start small, just like in a financial financial investment in a long term. Suppose you take Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, you don't know how the world will be 5 to 10 years down the line in Bitcoin, but you know what, keeping probably some very minimal amount from your side doesn't hurt you, because you never know, it may be yielding you 10x results. That is exactly true with community investment. So I can confidently say that my investments of probably in a month, putting some amount of effort into this kind of community has paid me huge. I have started off small, probably as a contributor, as a volunteer for one event, but then I also transformed into somebody who is a community leader who can bring in people together for certain common cause. The returns are compounded, which means that you can continue to build on what you have achieved last year. You can build on it this year, and in the third year, it will be cumulative in terms of what you want to do. That I have seen it continuously increase, and that doesn't come overnight, but it happens with your continuous small investment. It is like, if you are into finance, we call something called SIP, right? So the systematic investment plan, the small 100 rupees you put every month, and then over a period of 10 years you see a huge one. That is exactly same with the community investment. It enhances both your personal and work skills. I think I can undoubtedly say becoming a better communicator, better influencer, better in terms of selfless leadership. All of these dimensions have much more improved in me in the last 5 to 10 years compared to what I have gained just with the work part of it in my early 10 years of my career. Now, when as part of community, we have run 50 plus meetups so far in last 5 plus years. One common thing when I talk to developers, programmers, or students, one common thing is these are the 4 major blocks that they talk to me about. They first do not know why should we contribute, right? Many of the time feel that it's a philanthropic or doing something in no return, right? Many of the people feel that, okay, what is there in return for me, that why should I be doing? That is one of the major one that comes. Second thing is the awareness of it. Awareness that there are many communities where where the volunteers are required. It's just a matter of reaching out to the organizers and then volunteering for them. The awareness is hugely lacking. Then people do not know where to start, right? They are inclined, they know, they are aware that there are communities, but they really do not know where to start. And the fourth one is how to start. How to start means, okay, what role do I play? How do I do stuff? So that part of it also not clear. What is good in this forum that you people are attending now is you have pretty much answers to every single of this dimension you have, right? So my purpose of this talk is to say, hey, you know what, start investing something right now, and then that is going to pay huge dividends. All of these are getting answered in this session. So as many clarifications you want, this is a good time for you to start with this community. Now, how do we bust all this and then get started, right? These are the skills what I have seen, not only me, but many of the volunteers in my community have gained it, and they have vocally told about, hey, Janardan, being part of the voluntary and organizing group for this is what we achieved. Okay. Just to give an example, first 4 years of JavaScript meetup, we built around 7,000 people as part of the community. And I learned a lot of technologies. For example, I know how to be a YouTuber. I know how to upload and stream my meetups live into that. What are the different roles and responsibilities in the YouTube? How do I promote my events in Instagram and other places where it is? What is Discord server? How do you set up a Discord server complete from scratch? I learned about so many technologies just because I am an organizer and I have a volunteer and I have to learn something and do it, right? I was forced to do, because we had to expand into platforms what people were asking me. So learn about technology, learn about software development. People come to know if you want to participate in a web development role, you have to go through the the Git process, and whatever. If you are using some other tool in work, you may be learning entirely different set of tools and software development style by participating in a community. Your communication skills are excellent. I exactly know what time of the week or what time of the day when I send emails for enrolling, when do I get more registrations, and that way I know my communication skills and influencing are on par. That have tremendously increased over a period of 4 to 5 years, that I'm really proud of. Then you start creating value. For example, in our meetup is a not-for-profit, means we don't make any money out of it. We just seek voluntary groups and companies to help us out in hosting in different places, right? That is one thing, creating value. If you want to have our sponsors come in and then advertise, and then they talk about their hiring plan or they want a reason for doing that, we have to start creating value. The meetup that we hosted day before yesterday, that is on the Sunday that we hosted on web development, we had around 300 people live doing coding as part of the boot camp, and then what they learned. So to create such a value where large number of people are coming, you have to start thinking very different. We started our first meetup with 25 people attending, and we reached the stage where people feel value in it, and then we are able to find 300 people join sessions. The next thing is it builds your strategic thinking. It is very important whether you are in a corporate world or any part of your life. Strategic thinking is long-term thinking. How do you put all your strengths together so that you can get the maximum benefit out of certain things? These are all the areas where you can definitely build skills, and I can vouch for these skills what I have built in the last few years. Now going to what is the path? What is the path and go forward plan? Simple steps. First is list of your hobbies and interests, right? Because you should be clear about that, because sometimes I've seen people go into too many places rather than zeroing in on something. So list all of your passions and interests, number one. Number two, explore around yourself what are available. For example, if you resonate with what is being discussed today, I think you should go ahead and volunteer, talk to the organizers and say, hey, how can I help? What are the next sessions happening? How do I do? So explore. Connect in terms of the connections as a community, participate in, let's say you have Slack and other channels, connect people around in the community, and then establish yourself in terms of what is that we want to do next, right? Contribute. If you take open source, normally it is a merit based progression, right? Even people who start with probably Linux kernel, if you take, they may start with some documentation or testing, but they become key contributors, then they become maintainers and all that of modules, because it is a merit based growth, right? And people do value it in companies. Many of the times when we hire people at Dell, at HP and all, we do see people who contribute. We know that the skills are there, and we by the merit of their contribution, that is a much higher candidate to choose between another candidate with the same amount of experience. Fifth one, there is a lot of growth based on you being a participant, contributor, owner, responsible. All that is with that it is possible. These are my simple tips and tricks on going forward. With that, thank you all for participating. I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Janardan, for your talk. In my view, it's an eye-opening talk. Definitely one need to find their unknown self. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. I would like to call out just one thing before I move on to questions from the audience. I'll take this opportunity to tell all the developers out there to join and contribute to this application library engineering group. Yeah, that's about it. And we'll stop by for a brief Q&A sessions. If we have, we'll see if we have any questions from our previous speakers as well. So I'll now hand over this forum to Kanak to take it forward for the questions as well as polls.
Thank you, Karthik. It's a great pleasure for me to have a chance to co-host this special event with you. Hello, everyone. My name is Karan. I wish you all a very pleasant evening. Okay, so do we have any questions? We are keeping an eye. Yeah, we have a question. Kamal, would you like to take the questions?
Yeah, I think, Janardan, we have a couple of questions from the audience. So the first one being, how can a beginner start contributing to open source?
Yeah. So there are several projects. If you take the most popular ones like Linux kernel or Linux distributions, there are many distributions where there are opportunities. There's a clear page in every single open source, a good open source project. There's a page on what are the various ways in which you can contribute. Some of the ways you can contribute, or you can be an evangelist for the software distribution and say, hey, this is the product, these are the benefits of it. You can write blogs. You can write blogs and promote and say, hey, this is a good software. Please, against the other options, alternatives available. Why did you select this and what problem does it solve better? You can be a blogger. You can be a speaker at events and promote that kind of software. Directly to the contribution to the software, you can be a tester. Even if you are not a coder or you're not skilled in coding, you can be a tester, file bugs to that. You can fix bugs. Okay, and over a period of time, you could even be going to a contributor and maintainer. Normally, the open source projects have the backlog as part of the GitHub list, and you can start picking up and then you can start contributing.
Thank you, Janardan.